Welcome to What You Don't Know About Sports, where we delve into the forgotten stories, teams, and athletes of sports history and question widely held takes on today's sports. I'm Blake, and this is Matt.
What's up?
And today we're going to try something a little different. So this is being released the week of Thanksgiving. And of course, what better to do the week of Thanksgiving than think about what we're thankful for, right? So the plan for today's episode is to chat about sports things that we're thankful for. How cute, right?
This is just like that Wednesday night before Thanksgiving at church or that last day before school, and everybody's like, I know what we're going to do. We're going to tell what we're thankful for, okay? That's exactly what this is.
Every period in class.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
We're going to do it. All right, so we don't know each other's lists, so that's even more fun. So we're going to chat about them. So typically we go through a whole scripted intro and stuff. Not today, my friends. What was it? Not so fast.
That's it. So you all can be thankful. There's no scripted intro. It's just us. It's just
You're
us.
welcome.
Also want to throw in, we're thankful for all of our listeners. We're really thankful. We showed our thanks with a little giveaway this week. So shout out for that. But yeah, we're really thankful for you guys before we get into the sports stuff, for listening to us essentially just talk to each other for 40 to 50 minutes about
sometimes an hour.
Cool things. Yeah. So thanks for listening to us.
We love you all. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Okay, so I'm going to go first. We each made a list of a few things, 4 or 5 things, I believe. So the first thing that I'm thankful for, I'm trying not to be a homer, okay? I'm trying not to be a homer here, so I don't want to just be like, I'm thankful for the University of North Carolina. Like, that's not cool. We're not going to talk about that today. Say whatever you want. So, general things in sports that we're thankful for. My first one that I'm going to start with is the adoption of soccer in America.
Ooh,
I
that's a good
say
one.
that because we Americans tend to not love the sport of soccer. I had a conversation with somebody today or yesterday about how and why the United States isn't a global soccer powerhouse. Well, in my opinion, that's because we have other sports that have been more popular here for much longer, right? So baseball isn't played in Europe. Basketball is played in Europe, but not nearly to the degree that it's played here, I would say. Of course, American football, the fake football, if you will, doesn't exist anywhere else.
Hand egg.
So, and we have other sports like, I actually don't even know is lacrosse an American thing?
Yeah, because it came from Native American tradition. So yeah, that's an American deal.
So that's
it's not
so
an
that's
American deal, but
that's not played widely, like professionally, anywhere else in the world. Okay.
No.
So if you think about our best athletes, like the best athletes that America can provide, right? They're not playing soccer. Now, we could have a whole episode about why soccer isn't big in America. Let's not do that. My point here is just to simply state that the television networks have finally started showing lots more soccer on TV, right? NBC Sports has covered Premier League for a really long time. The ESPN Plus, if you're lucky enough to have that, shows a lot of MLS games, as well as a lot of Italian league games. So you get to see your pretty boy Cristiano Ronaldo on ESPN Plus whenever you want. But that was the ESPN Plus just came out as of this recording a few months ago, or within the last year at least. So it's fairly new. Now, if you got to get if you did want to watch soccer, any soccer hardly before this, you had to go like really, really deep into a sports package and find like the Fox Soccer channel,
Fox
and
Soccer,
BN Sports, and all of these silly things that you shouldn't have to pay a cable subscription just to watch a game. Drove me nuts. But we're slowly coming around, and I think that's in large part because these news companies are finally figuring out, these media companies are finally figuring out that we want to watch it. And it's about freaking time.
It's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. And definitely like the abundance of airtime, I think, gives soccer more room to exist. But it gets like decent ratings. Even MLS games, which you wouldn't think, they get a decent viewership. I like that one.
When I was in high school, I remember watching a lot of European soccer, English and Spanish league games, because when I last played soccer in high school, and I vividly remember telling people that I didn't watch MLS because MLS wasn't real soccer. And and that long ago, the quality, the gap between MLS and everybody else, at least in Europe, it was so big. And they're getting closer. They're getting better. Not sure. It might just be that the MLS is just more attractive to better players. Finally, it's starting to come around with people. They kind of come here at the end of their life, like David Beckham shows up, David Villa shows up, somebody else really important just signed. Higuain just signed with somebody.
Yeah, Inter Miami, right?
Yeah. So you're starting to get these resources coming in. I hope maybe Lionel Messi will end his career with New York City FC after he goes to Manchester City next year. He'll come on over and play in New York. That would be really cool. Please. And eventually, maybe we'll be on the same level. Maybe not, but we're getting closer.
Sure. All right. My first thing that I'm thankful for, and I'm actually going to pack multiple things into this one because I'm a cheater this way. The first thing I'm thankful for is quarterfinal day at the ACC basketball tournament. More importantly, I am thankful for my time as like a child and teenager / mostly a young adult when it was quarterfinal Friday. And that meant that like everybody was trying to skip school. I did that once. Like I pretended to be sick and like snuck a radio into bed to listen to like a state Wake Forest game or something. That's real. I did that. And then, but it's also, like because Raycom is showing the games, and which is important because until just a few years ago, you could not legally watch any of that online. Like there weren't online platforms to do it. Now I can project the games for my students like up on the screen using my like TV subscription, and everything's fine. And we still get work done, but we're watching, basketball because here that is a tradition, right? Like teachers would drag a card in and play the ACC tournament because what else do you have to do? Like there's a good chance at any point during the day, a team from here is playing, whether it's 12 or 2 or 7 or 9. Obviously those aren't school hours, but that really was, and it still is. It's not on Friday now, it's on Thursday. So they can get the tournament done on Saturday at prime time. But it just really is, maybe less so now, but then it was really a cultural thing. Like everybody was kind of paying attention and would stop and watch and see who was going to win and what was going on. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful that it's still a thing and that people still get excited for it. But I'm really thankful for that, like Friday to skip school or watch it while you're at school and like have a good time.
I vividly remember watching ACC tournament games in high school, and being in Durham as a Carolina fan, it was a little awkward because luckily I went to high school in like Western Durham, like really close to the Chapel Hill line. So it was a decent mixture, but you were still in the city limits of Durham, and kind of maybe frowned upon that you weren't a Duke fan, but it's fine. Whatever. And
Yeah.
I vividly remember the carts, because of like the big old TV carts with the fatback TVs on top that had to be
Yes.
strapped down. That's what
Yes.
they'd roll it in there, and we get to watch a game, depending on the teacher, of course. Some teachers weren't as into it as others, but loved when ACC tournament time came around, because some teachers were willing to show it to us.
And you could always get it. I think I started this point but didn't finish it. You could always get it because even though it was on ESPN, here locally it was this Raycom thing. And that was on WRAL, which is now it's the NBC affiliate, but I think it's the channel most people watch. And you got it locally. Like it was, right there. So over broadcast. So you were able to get it, which made a big difference too.
This ACC tournament game is brought to you by Bojangles.
Yes, and you got Bojangles and Food Lion ads that you would never get
Food
on
Lion.
ESPN because
It was all local sponsors.
Yeah, so it's local things. Harris Teeter, which I get is more of a national brand, but still, that it was very cool to have that kind of a local feel. I know later on it became like a no-no, and that's why the ACC network exists now, because it kind of outlived its time. But for a while there, that was a great deal for the conference.
And Matt is significantly older for me, for all of our listeners, so the fact that it happened while he was in school and when I was in school, that's impressive.
I feel like seasoned is a better word than older. But
Wiser.
It's still true.
Wiser.
See, that's good. I'm like an owl.
Like with the Tootsie Pops, you mean?
Yeah, I know the number.
How
to get to the center.
So, yeah, that's a cool nostalgia thing. I like that. So my next one on my list is, and this doesn't apply every time it's used, but I think I'll explain it. I'll explain why. My next thing on my list is instant replay and the rules surrounding its adoption, right? We take it for granted, but there was a time when that didn't happen. There are times when games were won and lost by the skin of somebody's teeth, right? And we just didn't have the technology to look at it immediately. We didn't have the rules available to us to look at it immediately. We didn't have the rules in place to change the outcome of a play, change the outcome of a score. And that was heartbreaking because some stuff, really important games could be ruined because we didn't have the ability to go back and look at it real time. Now, I say that. Do I think sometimes it's abused? 100%. Nothing drives me crazier than the end of a college basketball game when they call a timeout and it's an automatic replay and we're sitting there. The end of basketball games take obnoxiously too long anyway because of all the fouling and the free throws and I understand why. It's not that I don't understand why they do it. It's just obnoxious. It's to the point where anytime a game is down to like the last 2 or 3 minutes, my wife says, "Oh, the game will be over for 30." And it's because she's used to watching these basketball games that just take forever. For a good reason, but holy crap, people, come on. There's a diminishing returns limit at some point when it's just not okay anymore. But instant replay is good in a way when it's used not overbearingly, I guess is a good way to put it. And I like the fact that coaches can challenge. They only get a certain number of challenges, like in football. They throw the little flag on the field that makes them feel special, I bet. And they get to challenge the play and blah blah blah. It's really hard to abuse that rule, like the coach's challenge rule. But man, like sometimes some refs just rely on it way too much.
Absolutely. That's the one thing I noticed. The local sports channel here did an interview with a former ACC official, but he was ACC in like some other conferences too. And he said that he's retired now. He said the thing that he noticed was that referees defer to replay. So they make the call that would benefit replay, if that makes sense. So like if it's a fumble, not a fumble, they're going to rule it a fumble and let the recovery happen and let that play out, because then they can go check replay and see if it's right. So some of it's out of their hands.
Man, it's such a good rule because, again, it can save the outcome of a game, the outcome of a season. It can win you tournaments. It can win you championships. It can be so good. But yeah, to a degree, I don't know, and I don't know if there's a way. Like, this is a totally different topic, but I can understand in a way that like NFL referees who are part-time, they don't get as many reps, right? They're part-time, like they're doctors and they're lawyers and they're whatever, full-time. Then they just fly to whatever city the NFL sends them to, referee a game for 4 hours, and then comes back home. If that was their full-time job, I'm sure they could figure out a way to not rely on it so heavily and not, in my words, abuse the instant replay system. But it can get frustrating at times.
Yeah. College officials the same way because they're part-time too. I think less so in basketball, but like football they are, because I know for a while the president of Wingate University out in Charlotte was like an ACC football official, which is
like,
just
like what? Come on now.
But yeah.
Oh, goodness.
For state fans of a certain age, T.A. McClendon was in. That would have been fixed by replay. The other thing that gets me about replay is that it's 2020. There literally are cameras at Best Buy for $100 that shoot better video than we had 10 and 15 years ago in professional camera, professional equipment. And somehow on all of the college football games that are not the big games, there's never a camera on the goal line.
No.
State was playing Wake Forest like 2 years ago, and there was a situation where they were trying to figure out, I can't remember, I think it was a state player. I think it was Jacoby Myers, actually, just had a big weekend a couple weeks ago.
Yes, tossing a touchdown for the Patriots. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think he caught a touchdown pass. Should have been a touchdown pass. Catches it, stretches out for the goal line. Somebody knocks it out of his hands, and so they're checking to see if the fumble happened before he got it across the goal line. And there's no camera on the goal line. Like, how is that not just a thing? We're going to put somebody stationed here with their cell phone. Like, anything would be better than not having something there. That grates my nerves to no end.
A cell phone camera would be better than some of the technology that seems to be used in some of these smaller games. But now you've got the adoption of the pylon cam, not only down the sideline, but also down the goal line.
Right.
And that's great. But, like, where was that? Why did it take so long for us to get to that point?
Crazy.
That's tough.
Crazy. All right. My second thing that I am thankful for is what I am going to call championship season. And this is the time from January, when the college football and NFL playoffs are occurring, through the end of the NBA Finals, which typically occurs in June. There's something of significant stakes happening in the world of sports, generally just about every day, whether it is the NFL and college football playoffs leading to their championship games, conference tournaments in basketball kicking off shortly after the NCAA tournament, stretch runs that leads into the very end of the NHL and NBA seasons with their playoffs. And then there are other things happening like the College World Series and the Women's College World Series and some other events. Something is going on constantly that is the end of the season from January through June. And that's not to say the rest of the sports calendar is terrible, because it isn't. Really awesome things to watch the rest of the year. And then obviously in October, baseball's fun. Baseball's always fun, but people get into it in October. But yeah, that 6-month stretch, January to June, championship season, big implications for stuff all the time. You can find something in sports to watch and get into. I dig that.
We definitely get spoiled during that time because every single year minus this year because this year's messed up. But every single
COVID.
year when the NBA finals are done, I want to cry.
It is a letdown. Yeah.
Like I just want to sob into my pillow. It's so bad because you like you said it's college football, NFL, NCAA basketball conference championships, NCAA championships, World Series. You even got the Little League World Series thrown in there. That's fun to watch.
That's in there. Yep.
NHL finals, Stanley Cup, and then you've got the NBA finals, and then you've got what? Regular season baseball.
Right. It drops, and it doesn't help that. I mean, so if you are into these other sports, like if you just tuned into baseball for like opening day and then you focused in on everything else, you can use that end of the basketball season to jump back in because, everybody's like, there's 162 games. That's way too many. No one's going to watch that all. And it's like, yes, that's true. Baseball is a soap opera. You turn in, once a week, once every 2 weeks, and it's a 3-hour game. They're going to tell you everything that's going on. Yeah. You'll get caught back up, but it is a letdown because it's like, this is just now a regular game.
Mm-hmm. With what implications? Like a regular season baseball game, one regular season baseball game out of 162 game regular season, it's just so anticlimactic until you get to the playoffs.
I get it. Unless you're the team that missed the playoffs by one game, then you wish you had that one.
Or you're the Atlanta Braves and you lose a 1-game wild card play-in.
Could have used some other games to
Dude.
Get out of that, you know what I mean?
Okay, so that is one of my arguments in those situations is don't put yourself in that situation. And you can't be like it's like a referee's bad call at the end of the game minus the instant replay. It's like a referee's bad call at the end of the game. Don't be within striking distance of the other team. You shot yourself in the foot anyway. There were how many plays, how many opportunities to go away from them, far enough away where the ref doesn't decide the game. That's on you, bud. Don't know what to tell you. But you could have done better the entire game. Don't let the ref decide.
That does sound like a Carolinas fan's argument, though.
Isn't it?
Being honest.
Isn't it?
But it's true. It is true, though.
But that applies to any sport. It's not just college basketball. It's not just a homer thing. I've heard Carolina fans, the refs, especially against Duke, the refs, Coach K plays the refs, blah, blah, blah.
It's only Duke, though. They're
only Coach K pays the refs, apparently. But I'll argue.
That day he's the only one. Other days it's Roy's doing it too. But
yeah, I've argued with other Carolina fans about it though. They're like, the refs, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, we should have made that shot and that shot and that shot and that. Like, there's what do you shoot field goal percentage in a basketball game 50%. Shoot 51. You'd have been 3 field goals ahead of them. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah,
you'd be fine. Anyway, soapbox over. My next thing that I'm really thankful for in sports, and I'm not old enough to have really lived without them because about the time that I was becoming a teenager, these things started happening. Fantasy sports.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot imagine not playing fantasy sports. Can you?
At this point, probably not. I mean, it's just fun.
Yeah, it's like a way to play the game without being a professional athlete. Now, that also comes with, to a point, kind of like the instant replay, where instant replay is cool sometimes. I don't really mind, like fantasy sports. Okay. In our fantasy football league this year, I am 2-8. Okay?
Yeah, you're bad.
But I'm having fun. I'm a terrible loser at anything else that's competitive. Anything else. Video games, ping pong, doesn't matter. Like anything. Actual sports, doesn't matter. I'm a terrible loser. I'm 2-8 and I'm last in our fantasy football league this year. And it's a blast. Like I just have fun doing it. Because so much of it is about like you build up to the games and then it's out of your hands. Oh, yeah. Like you just can't do anything else. So why get mad? Like, okay, so Nick Chubb had a breakaway run for a touchdown recently, and he jumped out of bounds at the 1-yard line. You're going to be mad at him for that? Yeah, you're
Right.
going to
So
be
his
mad at
team,
him.
He could guarantee a team win.
That's obnoxious. That's so obnoxious. Like,
Yeah.
it's fantasy sports hit different for me. Anything. I'm playing anything. I can imagine when my kids get a little older and I start trying to like play sports with them and stuff. I don't plan to just let them win. I'm just that competitive. You got to learn how to be a good loser because you're not going to win every game. So I'm not going to let them win. And I can see myself getting really competitive even with my kids. It's not going to be good, but it's going to happen and I can't help it. But with fantasy, it's a little different. It's just like happy, fun, go lucky. Like you just put your players out there and you just see what happens. And if you win, if you lose, you lose. It's fine.
Yeah, I really like fantasy sports. I like the daily fantasy sports, and I'm like you. I only have a problem with it when people like that's their main focus for watching and doing, because that's when they get into that situation where like, why didn't you score? Well, it wasn't the right thing for him to do to score. Like it was the right thing for you sitting at home for him to score.
Yeah.
Like as long as you're a sports fan that plays fantasy sports and not somebody that's just a fan of fantasy sports, if that makes sense, right? That you're not like, to me, that's what you are when you're mad at Nick Chubb for not scoring is you're a fantasy sports fan who is watching this game. You're not an actual fan of the sport. So that's, yeah. But otherwise, gamblers get that way too. Sports gamblers, they were upset with him too. I think it affected the point spread somehow. So
I can see that, but again, you can't think about it that way. You just can't. If you're an individual, whether there's money on the line or there's a fake championship belt on the line, pride on the line, doesn't matter. You just can't get butthurt about an individual player who plays a team sport. If you want to bet on the individual, bet on a tennis match, bet on a golf match. Don't bet on a team sport. That's simple to me anyway. I don't understand. It can't be that hard, but it's that simple to me.
Yeah, fantasy sports make sports more enjoyable though, because it gives you a rooting interest where you wouldn't normally have one. I love it.
Yep, and I don't have a rooting interest for professional teams. I don't have a single professional team that I've like. Well, I can't say that I have got merch for because I do have a Barcelona soccer jersey. But I don't have a rooting interest in them per se. Like I'm a fan of the players on the team, not necessarily the team.
Except he says this, y'all, but anytime people are talking about hockey, he's going to jump in with some Boston Bruins nonsense. He is from North Carolina. He has lived in North Carolina his whole life. He's been to Carolina Hurricanes games.
Yep.
But his wife's from Boston, and so that's the way this works. And so he will needle us. He will troll us with Boston Bruins.
Oh, that's so fun.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm sold on this no protein thing.
It's so fun. I can't help myself when it comes to the Bruins and Canes thing, because everybody down here is just a hardcore Canes fan. Including you.
Well, everybody is a stretch.
Well, of course, not every single person in North Carolina is a fan, because here's me.
At least a good 20,000 of us, you know.
Not even enough to fill the arena they're playing, guys. It's okay, though.
See that's the kind of thing right there. No, I gave that one to you.
That was a softie. All right.
My number 3, in no particular order. This one's good and poetic, and it works because the sport is a poetic sport. I am thankful for the feeling that comes with opening day, particularly in baseball, but any sport, right? The feeling of newness. It's one of those sports imitates life situations that everybody likes to write about when they're doing, sports columns. But it is a truism, right? That they're like the newness of a new season. There are people in new places. Everybody has hope, even though you show up and you know your team is terrible. They're going to be tanking, right? The people, fans of the Washington football team, are like, yeah, Chase Young, this is going to go well. Dwayne Haskins, we got Ron Rivera now. This is going to go great. And you win the first game and you get excited, and then, reality sets in as you go forward. But it's that feeling that anything could happen, and you have a whole season. Even if you're not a fan of a particular team, you're just a fan of the sport. Just that feeling that anything can happen. I get to see this play out. I enjoy that. I'm thankful for that. It gives you as an individual like a sense of renewed energy and optimism, at least for a little bit. So, yeah, I'm thankful for opening days.
Interesting point, because after a certain amount of time of watching some sports, it gets to feel redundant, and it's like almost like a baseball season because it takes so long. You're just like, okay, how many more games do we have? Like, is this thing almost over? Because it goes from March to November sometimes. You're like, oh my gosh, okay, we've been at like a NASCAR season kind of feels that way. You're like, oh, you get dizzy because you watch them go around in circles for 38 weeks. And like, but then 2 weeks without it, and you're like, oh my God, it needs to hurry up and come back. Why is it taking so long? And then when February shows up, the Daytona 500's this big show, and you're like, yeah, it's ready. We're ready to go again. It is an interesting feeling. Look, my big one is probably college basketball. Like, even the first time I get to see the new Carolina basketball team play, like, I'm getting chills talking about it. It feels so freaking good. And most of the time, I don't even know the full roster yet, but just seeing everybody in their new jerseys, and of course, being Carolina, we play a bunch of D2 schools or like really far off things. So like, you're going to win your preseason games, and it's just a really good feeling to see your team doing really well right off the start. Now, as far as the Washington football team goes, it's great to have the optimism, but how long does that optimism really last most of the time? Like, is the feeling that you get day one worth the disappointment that follows, if it's saying that right?
It's worth it, because otherwise you would just have disappointment, right? Well, you gotta have that little bit of optimism. I'll tell you, this year it lasted until halftime of the second game. That was how long the optimism lasted, and then it was kind of gone. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I was almost actually, college basketball is a good one too. I was actually debating putting that in my list of Thanksgiving stuff. Is that like the week coming up when this episode will be released typically is, in a non-COVID situation, is there's tournaments everywhere and it's games all day, and you can see some of the best teams playing some of the other best teams, or at least what we think would happen. And that's good. I think too, talking about optimism and having it dash and all that stuff, I think part of the mundane that you mentioned is the way that we talk about sports now too, because like, obviously championships are the big thing. Like, that's important. Who's going to win the championship? But we start in every sport. I think football is the one that's the lead. We do this the least in. But in college football, we started doing it, all year. We start the year talking about these are the 3 or 4 teams that have a chance to win it, and every other storyline is underneath that. And so it's always a focus on, think back to this past NBA season, LeBron and AD are going to win a title. LeBron and AD are going to win a title. Maybe they got to go through Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, but that's really where it's focused on. And so you're watching these games, and it's like, then what is the point of the other teams existing? And so you miss the part where sports is supposed to be fun and the individual games are supposed to be enjoyable. And it becomes this like almost entertainment TV show storyline where like the big arc is not just who's going to win the title, but these are the main characters and we have to follow them. And it's just, it makes the season mundane.
That does get a little tiresome after a while when like the major sports news networks only talk about the same people over and over and over. Because of ESPN, we know what LeBron James eats for dinner every night. Like, it's
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday. But so, and that's cool that he's so open on social media and he's so relatable and like he's a great role model for sports. But at some point, like there's other things. There's other things to talk about. And names like LeBron and names like Clayton Kershaw or like just all the big names in every sport, like just let Dustin Johnson go and have fun on the beach with Gretzky's daughter after winning the Masters, and just let him be. Just let them be, man. He's celebrating. I don't need to see what they're doing. Like, we know he won. It's cool. Just let it be. Let's talk about what's coming up. If it's already happened, and that's the hard thing too, is like you stay up all night, you watch like every NBA Finals game, right? And then LeBron and AD finally win this past year, and then that's all they talk about for 48 hours. And I understand they have to say, like, because people wake up at this time, and then people wake up at this time, and then people wake up at this time, and it's like, okay, but I watched the game. I just want to talk about something else now. I know what happens. No spoilers here. Just give me what's next, you know? It gets a little tiresome sometimes.
Yeah. And I think opening day is the one day that everybody gets treated semi-fairly, right? Everybody gets their time in the sun.
Because everyone's unproven. So, like, in a way, everybody's kind of on a, like, nobody knew that the NFC East was going to be this bad. So everybody in the NFC East got equal treatment. Like, oh, somebody from the NFC East got to go to the playoffs, right? Somebody's got to win the division. Little do we know it's going to be a team that's like 6-9-1, but that's fine.
Nothing, and they're 1-15 NFC East champions.
That's a good one, though. I like that. Yeah, that's another nostalgia-ness feeling I got from that one too. That was a good one. So we have time for one more. I'm going to choose to be thankful for the United States women's national soccer team.
Ooh.
Okay. And here's why. I'm the father of 2 girls, and I don't see them any differently than any other kid, right? The fact that they're female doesn't matter to me. It shouldn't matter to anyone. Shouldn't matter to society. Shouldn't matter to corporate America. Shouldn't matter to sports America. Shouldn't matter to anybody, right? The fact that they are persisting through this fight of equal pay is inspiring, not only for just women, not only for little girls, but for everybody. It shouldn't be that hard. I'm going to get off on a soapbox again. It shouldn't be that hard for them to be recognized. It shouldn't. They should get paid what they deserve to be paid, and that's the end of it. So the fact that they might take an L one time, right? They're the greatest women's soccer team ever, and they're never going to stop. They're never going to stop winning. They're never going to stop being good. They're an inspiration to everybody, or they should be.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, very inspiring to women and girls for sure. And then the fact that they are infinitely better than the men's team.
Just dominating everybody.
Yeah, and they're not paid accordingly. And I know there's arguments on the other side, I guess, economically, like how much FIFA pays in, but still, that's for us, the United States Soccer Federation. Like, the women are the moneymakers.
And again, the craziest part is, there's a whole bunch of numbers and a whole bunch of reasons and all this stuff, but any men's individual or team who have been as dominant in their sport as the women's national team has been in theirs would be billionaires by now. Like, just imagine UCLA back in the day. Of course, if they're not a college team and whatever, but if they were as dominant, UCLA basketball was dominant back in the day. Just imagine them. They all went pro. They all got to make their money. They all won championships in the NBA. They were extremely successful. How come the women's national team can only stop at in a courtroom by a judge who says, no, you don't deserve equal pay. That's not fair to me. And as a father of two girls, it's inspiring to see them just continuing to fight for what they believe in.
I'm with it. I dig it. My last one is a sappy one. I am thankful for the closeness that sports can bring us, right? There obviously are debates. You can turn on any sports network at any time of the afternoon and hear them yelling about things. Most of it manufactured, obviously, but so there's obviously that. And then there are the bigger social issues that people get into, but there is that time during the game. There are those moments during games, big moments, championship winning thing, not even a championship winning thing, just like a last second shot or something like that, that everybody for a few moments forgets everything else and they're just happy and they're just excited or they're just into something or they're just yelling at the top of their lungs for their favorite team or player or whoever. And for that little bit, everybody that's in that arena, everybody that's watching becomes kind of one singularly focused entity. That's cool to me. That closeness, it brings closeness in families, even if it is people that pull for different teams, needling each other about it. That's affection still, right? That's still being close to one another. So that the closeness of it all is something that I'm thankful for, or the last thing that I'm thankful for.
Yeah, the camaraderie that comes with sports is a really, really cool thing because, like you said, you show up to a sports game in person whenever we can do that again. You show up to a sports game in person, you're sitting beside somebody who maybe you wouldn't even speak to any other time, right? Unless you were absolutely forced to. But you have that thing in common, right? You have the one thing in common, and that one thing is your patronage for the team that you're there to watch. And that's a really cool feeling where you don't even know them. You know nothing about them. You've never met them in your life until 5 seconds before you sat down. And you already know that you have a commonality amongst you. You know, you have something to talk about. You have something to relate to each other about. And it can spark all types of conversations and even like friendships, relationships, whatever comes from those. But it is a really cool feeling to have that camaraderie amongst sports fans. And you don't even have to be a fan of the same team, like you said. Just sports in general, like the build up to a big game. Unless you're Duke Carolina, you're not going to like severely trash talk the other people, right? But like just a generally good sports game, you're going to debate whose team is better and stuff like that. And for a while, like none of the other stuff matters. Nothing outside of that game matters. The lead up to the game and then during the game until it's over, everybody's just laser focused on the outcome of the game, and you just get to forget about everything else. That's a really cool feeling.
The one cool story. I've got two cool stories, but I'll tell one of them. We both went to Barton College. We're going to give enough personal information. I think everybody that listens right now is personal contacts of ours, but we're going to give enough personal information out one day that everybody's going to know who we are. But we both went to Barton College, and I was a student there. They won a Division II basketball championship in 2007. And the way that tournament works, the first 3 rounds are played at campus sites, and Barton was the host of it. So I went with my dad, and we were at would have been the regional finals. So if you're thinking about the Division I tournament, it would be the Sweet 16 round, the 3rd round of the tournament. And so they had been behind heavily in both of the first 2 games, come back and won both of them. I think one was like a 17-point comeback with 10, 12 minutes left, something like that. Ridiculous. And then they had come back in the second game. They had broken an all-division record that year for most OT games played, most OT games won, like all this crazy stuff. And so in this finals, they're down like 17 points again. and the guys behind us, sitting behind me and my dad, were like this group, 3 or 4 older guys. I have no idea who they were. I don't think I've ever seen them since. He had no idea who they were. But when they were down 17, the guys behind them were just like, oh, they're tired. This is over. Nothing, just give it up, whatever. And then Barton made a little run, and it cut it from like 17 to 10, and whoever they were playing, I can't even remember who they were playing now. It might have been Mount Olive. Calls a timeout, and they go back to the huddle, and the guys behind us still, they were not having any faith. My dad turns around, looks at him, and says, look, I've watched them play this whole year. They've played this way this whole year. They've got a really great chance of winning the game. I think they're going to come back and win the game. So you can either cheer for them or you can just stop talking. And so they do. They come back and win the game. And as they're taking the lead, like one of the guys like taps my dad on the shoulder and is like, you said it was going to happen. You said it was going to happen. It's happening. And like from that point forward, everybody was excited about it. But like these are people about the same age, but they had no clue who they were. They had never talked to each other, never seen each other, and they had that interaction through sports. So that's just a really cool thing.
Very cool moment, yeah. Lots of wonderful things to be thankful for in the world of sports. What you just heard was just a few of our favorites, and sports has been in both of our lives for as long as I can remember. Sure as long as you can remember also. And it's just part of who we are at this point, and that's kind of where our passion for talking about sports comes from. So we hope you felt some of that. We hope you enjoyed listening, and we will be back in a couple weeks with a new episode. And until then, enjoy.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What You Don't Know About Sports. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review, 5 stars only, and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen. If you have a great sports story, we want to hear about it. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WYDKAS Podcast, and on our YouTube channel at What You Don't Know About Sports Podcast. All episodes are written, recorded, and edited by us. Stay tuned for the next episode. Like, I get disappointed when I like update Reddit and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I try to look at Reddit within like 3 hours of the last time I looked at it, and there's nothing new.
Oh